Dirty Harry, and just looking at him had something pinging low in Chloe's belly. He didn't appear to have the same reaction to her, of course. Nothing rippled Sawyer's implacable calm or got past that tough exterior. And he did have a hell of an exterior. At 6 feet 3 inches, he was built like a linebacker. But in a stunning defiance of physics, he usually had a way of moving all those mouth-watering muscles with an easy male fluid grace that would make an extreme fighter jealous. Stupid muscles, Chloe thought, as something deep within her tightened again from just looking at him. Some complicated combination of annoyance and reluctant lust. Last she'd checked, they had developed a sort of uneasy truce, meaning he lived by his rules and she lived by hers. Mostly, this meant 2 different roads to the same conclusion, but there'd been some misunderstandings. Not wanting to explain last night, which would undoubtedly lead to another misunderstanding, she quickly yanked her sweatpants legs down to hide her injuries, shooting him the most professional smile in her repertoire. "Sheriff?" she said smoothly. The guarded expression that he wore as purposefully as he did the gun at his hip slipped for a single beat as he looked around. "Just you this morning?" "Yep." Her smile turned genuine as Chloe enjoyed achieving what few could. She'd knocked that blank expression right off his face. She knew that was because he hadn't been expecting her. It was usually Tara who made the coffee every morning, coffee so amazing that Sawyer routinely stopped by on his way to work for a cup instead of facing the station's crap. "Tara's not out of Ford's bed yet," she informed him. The mention of his best friend and Chloe's sister in bed together made him grimace. Or, more likely, it was Chloe's bluntness. In either case, he recovered and strode to the coffee maker, his gait oddly measured, as if he was as tired to the bone as she. The county police and sheriff departments played weekly baseball games against the firefighters and paramedics, and they'd had one last night. Maybe Sawyer had played too hard. Maybe he'd had a hot date after. Given how women tried to get pulled over by him just to get FaceTime, it was possible. After all, according to Lucky Harbor's Facebook page, phone calls to the county dispatch made by females between the ages of 21 and 40 went up substantially whenever Sawyer was on duty. His utility belt gleamed in the bright overhead light. His uniform shirt was wrinkled in the back and damp with sweat. She was wondering about that when he turned to her, gesturing to the coffee pot questioningly. Heaven forbid the man waste a single word. "Help yourself," she said. "I just made it." That made him pause. "You poison it?" From her perch on the counter, she smiled. "Maybe." With a small headshake, Sawyer reached into the cupboard for the to-go mugs Tara kept there for him. "You're feeling brave, then," she noted. He lifted a broad as a mountain shoulder as he poured, then pointed to her own mug steaming on the counter at her side. "You're drinking it. You're a lot of things, Chloe, but crazy isn't one of them." She suspected one of those things was a big pain in his very fine ass, but she shrugged. Sawyer leaned his big frame against the counter to study her. Quiet, speculative. Undoubtedly, people caved when he did this, rushing to fill the silence. But silence had never bothered Chloe. No, what bothered her was the way she felt when he looked at her like that. For one thing, his eyes were mesmerizing. They were the color of melting milk chocolate, but sometimes, like now, the tiny gold flecks in them sparked like fire. His hair was brown, too, the sort that contained every hue under the sun and could never be replicated in a salon. At the moment, it was on the wrong side of his last cut and in a state of dishevelment, falling over his forehead in front and nearly to his collar and back. The lines in his face were drawn tight with exhaustion, and she realized that he probably hadn't been headed in for his shift as she'd assumed, but just finishing one, which meant that he'd been out all night too, fighting crime like a superhero. And yet, somehow, he still managed to smell good. Guy good. She didn't understand it, but everything about him reminded her that she was a woman, and that she hadn't had sex in far too long. "Seems a little early, even for you," she noted.